Okay, here's the thing about Fist of the North Star that nobody wants to say out loud. It's not really a martial arts manga. It's an ethical philosophy exam dressed up in a post-apocalypse. Every fight is a question. What did you love, and would you die for it? And my reading of the whole series, which, grain of salt, this is mine, I'm a bookseller not a scholar. My reading is that Buronson and Hara built a virtue ethics grid and then pointed 10 characters at it and asked, okay, you. What does your love look like? I'm walking through those 10 today, broken love at the bottom all the way up to the man who holds the whole system together. 2 lenses. Western 4 loves, agape, eros, storge, philia. And an Eastern frame where the fate stars themselves read like a Confucian-adjacent virtue map. Hokuto Shinken's canonical description is a martial art rooted in love through destruction. 10 men, 10 answers. Let's go. Start with Jagi, because Jagi is the control sample. Same school as Kenshiro. Same adoptive father, Ryuken. Same Hokuto Shinken lineage as Raoh and Toki. Literally every variable held constant. And he chose cruelty for its own sake. No love at all, not for a woman, not for a brother, not for a stranger. Jagi isn't a tragedy. Jagi is a warning. He exists in the story so that every other character's love registers as an actual choice they made, not a thing they were born into. You needed somebody from the inside to fail at it, and that's him. Before we get to Yuda, look at the woman in the middle of all of this. Yuria. Her fate star is the Jibosei, the merciful mother star, and she's the center of gravity for basically every Southern Cross warrior in the first half of the story. Yuria is what eros looks like when it points outward at another person. Now look at Yuda. Yuda carries the Yosei, written with the kanji for bewitching, the bewitching star, sometimes rendered as the star of enchantment. Fandom lists it as a star of glamour that carries a shadow of betrayal, and Yuda does exactly that. His whole deal is that he insists he, himself, is the most beautiful person alive. That's literally how the manga introduces him. The chapter is titled Yuda of the South Star 6 Holy Fists, I am the most beautiful of all. Design-wise, fandom cites him as drawn from flamboyant 80s music icons. Boy George comes up a lot in Japanese reader commentary, also Nikki Sixx and D. Snyder. Once you know, you cannot unsee it. Here's the structural thing though. While every other Southern Cross villain aims their longing at Yuria, Yuda aims it at the mirror. He dies trying to be seen. Not loved. Seen. Eros that cannot point outward stops being love and starts being a cage. Shin is the first villain the story gives you, and his fate star, no kidding, is the Junsei, the star of martyrdom. It's canonically the star of somebody destined to live and die for love. And that's the whole man. Shin's style is Nanto Koshu Ken, the lone eagle fist, but the style is just decoration. What Shin does is love Yuria. He steals her, he builds the Southern Cross Empire around keeping her. And when she cannot bear what he's become, she throws herself from the palace balcony, saved at the last second by the Goshasei, but Shin doesn't know that. And when Kenshiro finally finds him, Shin refuses to die by Ken's hand. He walks to the same balcony and jumps after her. Western frame, this is eros past its survival limit. A self that exists only as the act of loving one person. So when that act becomes impossible, the self just evaporates. Shin is a man who dies of his own purity. Soza. Fate star is the Shozei, the star of the general, sometimes translated commander star. He's the ruler archetype. Cold, aristocratic, terrifying. And the backstory is, and I want to be careful here, because this is in the original 1980s manga, Chapter 97, it is not a later retcon, it is canon from the jump. Soza was orphaned and then adopted and raised by a master named Ohgai, who trained him in Nanto Houken, the Phoenix Fist. Ohgai was the man who raised him. Father figure in every meaningful sense, not his biological father, but the only father the boy ever had. The school's inheritance right required a blindfolded final duel. When 15-year-old Soza removed the blindfold, he discovered the opponent he had just killed was Ohgai himself, because the right of Nanto Houken is that the student must kill the master to inherit the style. That's the trauma. And Soza's famous line, "Because of love, people must suffer," that is not a villain's speech. That is a 15-year-old who learned what love costs and sealed the door shut on it forever. The pyramid he builds later is a tomb for Ohgai and a monument to himself at the same time. Two deaths he cannot separate. Raoh. Eldest adopted brother, eternal antagonist, and in my reading the character that turns the whole series into a remix of Mencius. The Warring States Confucian had this famous distinction, the way of the king versus the way of the conqueror. The king rules through benevolence, the conqueror rules by force. Raoh is the conqueror. Kenshiro is the king. And the manga itself shows you Raoh's problem from the inside. Late in his arc the story shows him reflecting that he has been weak, strangely, to people with sad eyes, that only one who has known love can know sorrow, and he has known neither. That's not a Buronson interview, I want to be clear, that's Raoh's own in-story narration. But it's the key to him. He has never lost, and because he has never lost, he has nothing. Undefeated and empty. On the design side, Hara has confirmed on his personal blog that Raoh's face was modeled on Rutger Hauer, specifically Roy Batty in Blade Runner, the replicant leader. Once you've seen the end of Blade Runner, you understand what Raoh's death is supposed to feel like. The Conqueror secretly trying to become the king and unable to admit it. His death, at his own hand, is the only release he ever gets. Shu. The Jinsei, the star of benevolence, Ron. The Confucian virtue of treating a stranger's suffering as if it were your own. And Shu lives this out twice, in two of the most devastating scenes in the manga. First scene, Shu is already blind, because years earlier he clawed out his own eyes in exchange for young Kenshiro's life, when Soza had ordered the boy executed in front of him. He traded his sight for a child he barely knew. That's Ren in its purest form. Second scene, the Holy Emperor cross Mausoleum. Soza is forcing enslaved children to build a pyramid. Shu, still blind, walks up the steps himself carrying the capstone, not a random foundation stone, the capstone, the final stone, so that the children do not have to. He makes it to the summit. He sets the capstone in place. And in the single most wrenching beat in the entire manga, his eyesight comes back for a moment at the top of the pyramid, just long enough for him to see Kenshiro, the boy he saved all those years ago, standing there, grown. And then he dies. The imagery on this one reads as Christ climbing Golgotha crossed with the Buddhist parable of the prince who offers his body to feed the starving tigers. Two religious archetypes stacked into one act. Shu is agape and Ren at the same time, and his is the one death in the series the story frames as holy. Rei. Nanto Suicho Ken, the South Star Waterbird Fist, and the Jisei, the Star of Righteousness. E, in the Confucian Virtue Map. Fandom literally describes this star as belonging to someone who will live and die to protect those in need, and Rei is almost uncomfortably on the nose about it. Raoh lands a finishing technique on him early. Rei is already, medically, a dead man walking, days left, maybe. He could hide. He could run. He could just sit down and wait. Instead he walks straight back into danger to save a kidnapped child, to avenge a murdered friend, to put every moral account in his life in order before the body gives out. He isn't dying of Raoh's technique. He's dying of righteousness. Western frame, he's philia, the chosen bond that stays loyal past any possible usefulness to himself. Eastern frame, he is E, incarnate. Rei's whole arc is the answer to the question, what do you do when the timer starts? And his answer is, everything I was going to do anyway, just faster. Toki. the second of Ryoken's 4 adopted sons. By every measure he should have inherited Hokuto Shinken. He had the gentlest grasp of it, the most refined touch. What disqualified him is maybe the single most important moment in the backstory of the whole series. When the nuclear war hits, there's a fallout shelter. It fits only so many people. Toki physically forces Kenshiro and Yuria inside, then holds the jammed doors shut from the outside while the fallout comes down. He is not saving civilians in the abstract, he is saving his little brother and the woman his little brother loves, specifically, and taking the dose himself. His hair goes white, his body starts dying, and the future successor of the deadliest assassin art on Earth becomes a wandering doctor instead. Toki redirects the exact same techniques that kill people in Hokuto Shinken and uses them to heal people. There is no clean Western equivalent for this. This is why I reach for the Eastern frame. Toki is the bodhisattva path. Perfect mastery deliberately spent in the service of others until the body gives out. In the Four Loves frame, he's storge, the family bond, quiet and unglamorous. His final fight with Raoh, at the prison fortress of Cassandra, is not about winning. It's two brothers saying goodbye in the only language they share. Falco comes in late in the series, in the Celestial Emperor arc, and he carries a virtue none of the others quite embody, the Japanese concept of giri, duty as love, the weight of a promise you chose to make. Falco is the Golden General, successor of Gento Koken, and his whole arc runs on a single fact. Since her childhood, Falco has sworn an oath to protect the Tenti, the Celestial Emperor, who, in this story, is a young woman named Louis. Not a dying old emperor. A living young ruler Falco has personally watched over since she was a child. He fights and suffers and eventually gives up his own leg, and ultimately his life, entirely in service of that sworn protectorship. This is chivalric love, in the exact Western knight sense. The knight fights because of a bond he cannot honorably set down, even when setting it down would be sensible, even when it would save him. Sometimes love arrives as I said I would, so here I am. Falco is that sentence in human form. Which brings us, finally, to Kenshiro. The canonical description of Hokuto Shinken is that it is an art rooted in love through destruction. Fandom uses that exact phrase. The idea is that every strike is, in the end, an act of mercy. The opponent dies, yes, but they also stop existing as a source of suffering, both for themselves and for the people they would have hurt next. And that only works if the person swinging the fist has actually, really, loved somebody and lost them. Kenshiro has done that over and over. Kenshiro is the integration. He carries Shin's eros, aimed outward and kept. Soza's terminal violence, aimed at tyrants instead of children. Shusren and agape. Rei's Toki's storge. Falco's sworn duty love. And he carries Raoh's empty room too, because Kenshiro loses almost everybody he loves and the story is brutally honest about that cost. Western frame, he is agape completed, the love that keeps giving after it's been hollowed out. Eastern frame, he is the way of the king, rule through benevolence, the thing Raoh could never quite become. Every death in this series is handed to Kenshiro, and his job as the protagonist is to convert each one of them, one at a time, back into a reason for somebody else to live. The grid, then. Jagi, no virtue, the baseline. Yuda, eros turned inward at the mirror. Shin, eros pushed past the survival limit. Soza, the general star, sealed shut after killing the master who raised him. Raoh, the way of the conqueror, undefeated and empty. Shu, Ren and agape, the holy death at the top of the pyramid. Rei, and Philia, dying of righteousness on a deadline he set himself. Toki, the bodhisattva path and storge, the brother who shut the door from the outside. Falco of giri and chivalric love, the oath he chose to keep. Kenshiro, the integration, the way of the king, the man who converts deaths back into reasons to live. Hara and Buronson's answer to one very hard question. What does virtue actually look like in a world with no institutions left? Not courts, not police, not gods, not even nations. Just people, and the choices they are willing to die for. This reading is mine. Take it with a grain of salt. There are Hokuto scholars out there who'll disagree with half of what I just said, and I'd love to hear it. 10 men. 10 answers. 1 question. If you made it this far, genuinely, thank you. I'm going to leave you with the one line from this reading I want to sit on. Fist of the North Star isn't asking you how to live. It's asking you what you'd be willing to die for, and whether you'd still recognize yourself the morning after you decided. Tell me in the comments, which of these 10 hit you hardest? Was it Shu carrying the capstone? Was it Toki holding the shelter door? Was it Ray walking back into danger on borrowed time? I want to know. And subscribe if you want more deep dives like this one. See you next time.